All right. This is Atlas's 15th film session, so I'm just going to go up to him and rub on him, make sure he's okay. I give him a little bit of grain first and just put it in his bowl and center him in front of the camera here. I've been working with him a little bit on getting him comfortable with the halter in my hands, like I'm doing right here. So he's worried about me touching him with both hands. So especially with the Mustangs, they notice little differences in your body language a lot. So if you haven't been around them, or maybe a rescue horse or something, someone who's been abused, they really pick up on the little changes. So they make you very aware of what you're doing. So like right here, I'm trying to work on going over his head and kind of on his nose like I would put a halter on, but just without the halter. So I'm just breaking it down because he was really afraid of me touching him with two hands. That was a nice response. So I'm going to click that and feed that. He was really afraid of me touching him with two hands at the same time. So I started with one hand because I want to break it down as much as possible. When I added in the other one, though, he was like, oh my goodness, I don't understand. And so I really have to take my time, make sure he's cool with this. If he's not okay with me touching him, so he wanted to jump away there, I'm like, it's okay, I'll just stop, and then I'll ask again with one hand, make sure he's okay. I'm like, it's just me, just touching with my one hand here, and then I'll go back again, and now he's fine. So I'm just approaching and retreating here. So remember that one hand, see you're okay, then I'll bring in one hand, and then I'll kind of go back to two, but I'm just doing it nice and easy and slow. I want to make sure he's cool with me just touching with one hand, touching with two hands, and then I'll introduce the halter. So I'm just breaking it down. There I can touch him under the chin. If he moves away, I'm just going to wait. And then he comes back. I'm going to start again and touch him again. And that time he let me touch him under the chin, so I'm going to click him for that one and then feed him. So everything needs to be broken down. And again, with the Mustang, with how I have these Mustangs, this is the only way I can do it. So I didn't get them haltered, I have to slow everything down up to that point. So there he was a little worried about just me touching him on the face with the one hand. So I'm just going to work on that. And there he's like anticipating the food again. There, that was nice with one hand. So I'm just going back a step since it worried him. So then I'm like, okay, now we can go back to two. That was really nice. He stayed nice and still. So I'm going to reward him for that. So how I got them was I didn't get them haltered when I picked them up. So that's good because I learned a lot, but I did make it more difficult on myself. There I'm just going to have him target. That was nice. I'm just reintroducing the halter. So this was also filmed very sporadically. So that was a nice target, so I'm going to feed that. So I am working full-time at this time, and I'm going to school full-time. So I don't have a ton of time for the horses, and he's 2. So he was just chilling out in the pasture, not doing anything crazy. So there, I have a target again. I'll take it away. He was a little nervous about that. I have a target again. That time he was much quieter, so I'll feed that one. So he's been out here, I want to say about 2 months without me doing really anything. Because the last time I haltered him or worked on desensitizing the halter, you can tell he was in a different location. Now he's out in the pasture. And it's different season. So I think this is January, and I want to say previously it was September. So it's been a few months because with that fall semester, I didn't have any time. So that's why I'm going back and being like, okay, can you touch the halter? Is it okay? Can you target it? And I'm just going through all the steps. So are you okay with me touching your face with one hand all over? Are you okay with me touching your face with two hands? Are you okay with touching the halter? And then I add those all together once I know he's fine with each one individually. So there, okay, can you target it? Great. And I bring it up. Can you let me touch you with it? Great. And I'll take it away. And there I'm retreating. And he wants to look at it. That's a great sign. Good. And he's chewing there, so he's not super tense. He'd be more tense if he was just standing still. There he was a little worried because I want him to feel it on the other side of his face while I'm on this side, because that's what it's going to have to happen when I come and put the halter up over his head. So he was a little worried, but he was more moving his head because I'd clicked him right before, and then he wants to move his head and be a little excited. So I'll go back, get the halter set up, and I'm just kind of desensitizing. So I don't want to sneak it. I want to kind of rub it up over his nose there, so it's always moving. So just like I'm petting him, he's already used to that movement. So I'm just going to keep doing that, but with the halter in my hand. And he's really funky about having it touch his lip, or like under his mouth there, under his bottom lip and like his chin area. He's like, oh, I don't really like that, which I understand. He can't feel it, so he thinks that's pretty scary. But he let me touch it there, so I'm going to feed him for that. But so the first part is I'm just going to try and get the nose part, so that I can keep my hands on one side of him. I can just bring the halter up underneath him, get him used to that part, and then I can desensitize to me putting my hand up over his neck, and then I can add them together. So that's why I'm only doing this part right now. And then the previous part of this video where I was just making sure all the pieces worked, it's because he hasn't been done anything with recently, so that's why. So he was a little nervous there. He let me put it on his nose, but then he wanted to kind of pull out of it. So he kind of wants to do that too. He'll stand there and let me put it on, and then he's like, oh my gosh, it's on my face, what do I do? And he doesn't run away, but he gets a little scared and wants to pull his face away. So I'm just going to wait for him. There, he touches it. Perfect. I'll click him as he touches it, and I'll feed him. So I'm just making sure all the parts work and just breaking it down for him there. So we'll go back. I want to make sure he's okay with me touching his hand or touching his head. I'll reach up over his neck. Here's some just desensitizing, because my body's got to get closer too. So not only does he have to feel my hand over his neck, see me on the other side, I'm going to reach toward him too, and that can be really scary. That other one was pretty good. And he wants to kind of put his nose there. I'm just going to wait for him. There, that was nice. That was really good. And then when he's pulling his head away, he's like, okay, I'm ready for my treat, which I probably should have fed him for that, because that was pretty good. But I'll feed him for this one. So I'm just breaking everything down, making sure it's in little manageable pieces so he understands what it is that I want. And I don't want to freak him out. So I just want to break all of this down, make sure he's good with it, because it puts both of us in a vulnerable place, because we're kind of attached to each other, and I'm really close to him too. So I'm just going to hold it up, see if, oh, perfect. He can touch his nose into it, so I'll click him there when his nose touches and reward him. So I had to take a phone call, so I had to cut that part out, and then I'm just going to move him back over. He wanted to follow me over there, so just move him back over, and we'll work on this a little bit more. So just get my halter set here. I just want to hold it up so I can just kind of slide it over his nose. I'm just touching his nose. See, that's where he gets his nose stuck, and he's like, oh my goodness. And then he feels trapped, but he's not, it could be much worse. He's not being bad. He just takes that one step. I just ask him to yield his hindquarters, and we just try again. And he comes back, and that's pretty good, really. If he's going to react, that's a really good reaction to have, where he was worried, but then he immediately was like, oh, I'm fine. Like, I'm okay. So that's good. He's not running off and overreacting to that, because it is a scary thing for him to have to work through and understand that he's not going to be trapped, and his face isn't going to be trapped in anything. So just ask him again. Have it touch his lips there, and then he's like, he has a little bit of tension with the food, so that's something that we have to work through too. It's more anticipation. He's like, okay, now where's my food? And then he'll only think about that. So I'm just kind of being like, that's all right, let's focus on the halter, and then I'll give him a treat once he's very good. So we're just waiting. There, I'll click him for that, because he was keeping his head pretty still there. And then we'll let him eat here, and then keep working on this. I just want to end on a good place here. And I'm not worried about putting the halter up over his head yet. I just want to get this part good first. So I'm just going to hold it open, see if it can touch his nose. He moves his head away, that's okay. I'm not going to chase him. I'm not going to follow him. I'm just going to stay right here. There, it touches him. That was very nice. It went on the other side, on his right side of his nose, so that was good. So I'll feed him for that. So I'm just having him, at first it just touched the underside of his nose, like on his chin, and now I'm asking him to put his nose kind of in there. I'm kind of scooping his nose up in the halter. So it's getting set here. And then just kind of waiting here, making sure he doesn't feel trapped. There, he touches it on his own. That was pretty good. Because I'd like him, that's why I wanted him to target it. I'd like him to bring his nose toward me and put it in there. Then I'm not chasing him. I'm not trying to grab him and put it on his face. Then he has more control of it because he's putting his face in the halter on his own. And I don't need to do that all the time, but I want him to be more confident with it, and by having him do it, he has more control over the situation. That's the same for like targeting. He can touch it if he wants to. That's why I have him touch new objects in the beginning. So I'm just going to wait here, see if he'll kind of put his nose in. That wasn't bad. He got a little worried, wants to back up. That's okay. He was in the wrong spot too, so that's all right. But now he's being curious. So he backed up, but then he reached forward. He kind of wants to touch it. So he's coming back to me pretty good. And he touches it and kind of scares himself. It's a scary thing. So, I mean, especially with these guys, like, it's all fear-based. He's just doing it to be mean. He's just scared. Ask again. So I'm just putting it underneath and asking him to hold his head still. So that was good. And he's not pulling away or doing anything, so I'll reward him for that. So then he was worried. He backed away 2 times, so I'm going to relax the criteria a little bit and just ask for him to hold his head still. So I want to just make sure he's always being successful, so it's not a big deal if we go back a step. So ask again, and then there he touches him. That was really nice. Touched him on the nose, and then afterward he was like, oh my goodness, I did a good job, and he's like ready for his treat there. So he's understanding what I want. Very nice. And he didn't move his head a lot, so that was perfect. So I'm just going to end him on this, give him a jackpot of grain, and then we'll work on it some more later.